So Kanaka Kitchen was created by my mother and my sister, my mama Ku Kahakalau and my sister Iini my Kalani Kahakalau. And the whole idea of Kanaka Kitchen is finding an innovative way of cooking with using Hawaiian ingredients. This actually was my first Kanaka Kitchen teaching by myself. Most times we Zoom them in or they're physically here with us. So I told myself, I think I get them. So yeah, so that's why I went for it. Our first day we made uala crepes, yeah, and that was really, really different. That was the first time we actually did uala. Most times they do ulu crepes. And then with not only using the uala flour as the foundation, you know, and being foods that our kupuna were used to, but also having the ingredients inside being very healthy and still foods that you would never think of. Like we made the uala pesto out of the uala leaves, you know, stuff that people don't even think about that they can do. And it's really to show the kids that they can eat what's in their backyard, that surrounding them there's just so much resources, and things that may just look like a weed is actually an herb or is actually a tea. Like the hull that they're surrounded by, you know, we ohe the flowers, we picked the flowers and they added that to the tea. They never knew that there was mamaki right in the yard of Ka'ehu, so that was awesome, and they picked it and they added, and you could just see how proud they were to contribute to the food that they were eating, even though they didn't eat too much, but they loved the tea. And today when we came back, they were like, can we have more tea? I was like, of course we can have more tea. So that just feels really good. So the whole point of Kanaka Kitchen is to just share that our cultural foods, like our staples, our kalo, our uala, our ulu, we can use them in so many other ways than just the poi, just regular sweet potato on the table, you know? We need to become creative, and that's, I think, the only way that sometimes our younger generation will eat the foods. You know, a lot of them aren't used to eating poi because it's not something that we have, either the resources, or it's just become so expensive over time. So how do we make it where the younger generation can still have our staples and enjoy what they're eating, even though it's not how we're used to eating it, but just making it very creative, you know, and having them even become the mad scientists, you know, how Auntie was saying today. But how can they create their own foods right at home? Our past cohort, we actually had Anake Kili visit us and say that they had this summer program, Kukuna Kala, with DOE students, elementary students, and they were trying to find locations in central Maui where they could take the kids for summertime. And they came to do a site visit, and I just explained to them, you know, what the program is all about and what we offer. And so at first, the number of students was 50, and they said, is that okay? And I was like, yeah. And everything that they had asked, I said, yeah, we can do it, we can do it. So without really knowing like the solid number of students that were coming and what we were doing, I knew that we could do it. And so I only knew the haumana for 1 week, and then they had to teach the following week, right? So from the beginning, I informed them that we have a group of, I just said 50 DOE students coming, and they were like, what? And I said, yeah, and you folks are teaching them. And they were really nervous at first, but then they started to brainstorm and say, okay, what can we teach? Like, what have we learned? What can we do? And now switching over to week 2 when they showed up, the kids did a phenomenal job. I did not expect them to teach at that level. And you could see some frustration in them at some points because they're elementary kids, you know, they wouldn't listen from here to there and do their own thing and get sidetracked and everything like that. But our kids were still so respectful. Rather than getting upset and walking away, they just kind of waited until I said something or the other kumu said something. But they did such a great job. And these kids, this group particularly, I feel will be a great group of future kumus. Really, really so. And some of the stuff that I taught, especially with the how demonstration, they learned on the spot. And then the next group that came through, they could demonstrate the whole thing from top to finish. So I was very, very proud to see that go through. So it actually ended up going extremely well, and the haumana couldn't have done a better job. And the whole thing too with the students coming, the DOE students, was for them to take home something. So that was one thing I kept telling the haumana. I was like, what is something they can take home? And they're like they couldn't really think outside the box. Like, well, think about it. What about marine debris? They're like, yeah, we could do marine debris projects. It's like, what about how? They're like, they can make necklaces. They could do us like bracelets. I was like, yeah, see? So, and even getting word back from the DOE Kumu, they were very, very happy that their haumana could take home something every time they came to Ka'ehu. I overheard of Ku'ia in one of my mother's meetings of what they were doing for their community. Especially when COVID happened, they started giving back in a way of providing food. So I loved what I heard, and so I reached out to my mom. I said, hey mom, could you make the connection? So got in touch with Kaipo and Jade and I, we stayed in contact, and right away they said, absolutely, we love to do groups, especially the haumana, to come out and just learn. And so I honestly had no idea what I was expecting. I'm familiar with Lahaina, but didn't know what we would be doing, but that's fine because I love just being thrown in, you know, and that's what we actually been doing with the haumana. You know, they're always asked, what are we doing? I was like, no worries, surprise, you know, when we get there, we get there. So, but the amount of ʻIke, or knowledge, that Kaipo had given us that day was so impressive that the haumana took it all in. And a lot of the ʻIke was very scientific, you know, and with him doing so much chemistry and biochemistry and about microorganisms, and the way he was able to break it down for the haumana to understand, it was mind-blowing, especially how they brought their soil back to life. And for the haumana to see everything that they've done, and then for us to be a part of that too, was really mind-blowing. And they always say it's just the three of us, you know, here. So just know that what we just did here took us like a whole day, you know, kind of stuff. So I know the haumana felt really good of giving back. And it's definitely a relationship that we would love to continue, or even inform people of Ku'ia. But it was such a wonderful huaka'i, and it was definitely hot, but you know what, those haumana did not complain once, and they were so eager to shovel the coffee, you know, up, and like to place the cardboard down. So it was a proud moment for both Kumu'ui and myself, you know, that no complaints, they just went for it the whole time. First we were going, like, all of us would shovel, then all of us would unload. And I was like, let's just divide. And they're like, we'll shovel, we'll unload. It's like, okay, like me and Kumu, didn't even have to divide everybody. They did it on their own. So it was a wonderful day out in Lahaina. It really, really was. That was one highlight that actually the haumana had said, you know, through a fire and through a windstorm, they picked up and they continued, like nothing stopped them. And that's definitely motivating for our haumana, you know, especially with this time of COVID. People are just like, power ready, you know, but no, you just pick yourself up and you continue, you know, there's no stopping in what we're doing. We have to continue on and continue on. And even the ʻIke Hawaii that he shared, you know, with Val being a female and her having the oldest irrigation system ever, you know, and from the before 1600s, maybe around that anyways, but for that to be the oldest irrigation system, and the haumana were just like, whoa, it's like, yeah, these ali'i were on your island, you know, like, isn't that so impressive? Like, yeah, it was, and the kids were like, whoa, like couldn't believe it, you know. So with Pailoko, at the very beginning, we were trying to figure out how many days should we go to Pailoko, and they said 2 days, you know, would be a great process. And with me too, not knowing what we were going to do, I knew we were going to do something cultural, so I was like, okay, whatever they give at us. And it was Kappa, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. It's such an opportunity, you know, a lot. You don't find Kappa workshops. Or if you do, you may have to pay for them, you know, and which is understandable because the expert should get that pay, you know, but it's something that a lot of people don't know, and how it's even processed or made and everything. So they went from the beginning to the end with us, and that's what I appreciate. I love things where they know where it starts from and what the finished product is. So they know that they don't just go straight to the finished product. You know, everything has a process, and you have to work hard in order to get your results. And so they taught us the two varieties. They had Vauke Nui and Po'a'aha. And we weren't able to chop the Vauke down, but what we did help was maintain the Vauke by taking off the branches so that it grows straight, and when you strip it down, it won't have as much pukas down. So that was my ka'i for the haumana, to be a part of that process, knowing that it takes work not only from the time that you start. The kappa starts from the time it's planted into the ground, you know, and you have to maintain it until it goes to a certain height, chop it down, and then the work begins too. They were extremely patient, you know, we stripped the bark off. They tell us to go like 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, you know, all these things going along the way. And when you don't listen to the instruction, then you gotta maneuver another way. And if you don't listen, then maneuver another way. So the amount of patience that our haumana had, because we were there for 4 hours straight, just going, and not one of them complained. They just kept going, and they were so focused, so into it. You know, the sound of when we first started to kuku the kappa was the most beautiful sound. It's something you don't hear all the time. And it's like, it just like gives you like chicken skin, you know? It's like, oh, this is the sound our kupuna heard like every day probably. So just to hear, and majority of all the time, everyone is kuku at the same time, and the rhythm that we all just get. I'm not gonna lie, my arm was so sore after. I was like, oh, I gotta love it. But then they taught us the different stretches, you know, to do while we were there. And I know that helped the haumana, but for them to walk away and take actually home their pieces, they were proud already. And then knowing that there was another step that had to finish the kappa piece, they were even more proud. And so me and Kumu were like, we'll hold on to the piece just in case. And Auntie Leigh's like, no, they're gonna take it home. We're like, okay. And it was the best decision, I have to say, because we would have just left it in the storage shed. But with them taking it home, it gave them kuleana, it gave them responsibility. And every day I would ask, how's your kappa? What status is it in? And they would say, it's flat, we have something on it. And it described exactly how Auntie Leigh told them to take care of their kappa piece. So that was really, really my ka'i. We were supposed to go on Monday, and then the ua took us out, but that's okay. I was happy that we were able to return today. And that's when they took us into the dyeing process, and for them to walk around the property and show us where each dye came from, you know, and the haumana's like, huh? Like, had to think about what part of the plant and everything. And so it was super, super awesome for them to see the results, to see colors that they wouldn't think would come out from the plant. And that even when they would dye it, it takes a while for it to dry before they could actually print it. And then for us to walk around as well and look at the kapala, the printing parts, that was really fun. And they got to do the scavenger hunt, and they did a phenomenal job at that. Let me just say, they got it. They were looking and really observing the plants, like looking behind, and even the serrated one that was on the kapala, one of them had said the Vauke leaf. And I thought about it, I said, that's genius, but it's not that. Like, it's like, sorry, I know what it is, but that's not what it is. But that was a smart answer. But just, you know, for them to think about that stuff, to really, really observe their plants. And that's something that we taught them from the beginning, was kilo, to observe their natural environment. But now to take it even closer and really look at the mid-ribs, at the sides, at the crevices, you know, of these meakanu. So that was a proud moment from a Kumu's perspective, to see that they get it, they understand, you know, it's not surface level learning anymore. They're down deep, they got it.
So he leo mahalo kia ia o ko pakahia pau no ka hui ana, no ka ho'onanea pū ana me mākou, no ka ho'oka ʻike, no ka ho'olohe ana I ka ʻike Hawaii o kia mau kumu. Mahalo nui for all of you tuning in with us throughout these past days, and really, you know, engaging in the ʻike that has been shared from all these wonderful mentor and kumu of Maui, of Hawaii. He leo mahalo keia, again, mahalo to Ka'ehu, again, mahalo to all the people who shared and engaged with us in our keiki and our community. And again, this is encouragement to all you folks to find that space in your own community to learn, to engage, to share, to create relationships with Aina and with people, and learn more and share more in the culture in the Aina. And I'm so happy to be able to share with you folks today and throughout these past days. So mahalo piha ya o ko pakahi a pau, o wau no o ka hakuriti kamara. Ma ka ehu a hui ho, launa pū ho kako I ke kahila. A hui ho.